Would you dare to board a train where every meter of track hides an invisible threat? Where a single mistake offers no correction, no retreat, and sometimes no second chance? Some of these routes are over 100 years old and haven't changed at all. Still narrow, still steep, still terrifyingly exposed. One thin rail separating you from a drop of hundreds of meters. Other lines weave through living, breathing neighborhoods where every journey is a test of precision and nerve. This is Earth's most dangerous and spectacular railway. The journey starts now. 1. Bishwage Tamer, the world's most overcrowded train. From a distance, it doesn't even look like a train. It looks alive. Bishwage Tamer's special service is a moving carpet of humanity. Thousands of people plastered across every surface of the carriages. This train was designed to hold around 1,000 passengers. It routinely carries more than 10,000. When every door, every gap, every inch of floor is packed beyond capacity, the only option left is to climb. Riders cling to window frames. They sit on the roof. They hang off the sides. And hanging off the sides means facing low-voltage power lines, signal boards, and tree branches, all at head height. Every journey is a gamble most passengers take without thinking twice. 2. FCAB, the loneliest railway on Earth. The FCAB corridor cuts through the Atacama Desert, the driest place on the entire planet. Some stretches along this line have never recorded a single drop of rain, ever. Scientists have confirmed that in certain sections, even bacteria cannot survive in the soil. The landscape looks less like Earth and more like the surface of Mars. Deep red rock, flat horizon, absolute silence. Dozens of old stations along the route now stand completely abandoned. No towns, no roads, no signs of life for scores of miles. No tourists ride this train, no locals commute on it. The FCAB moves lithium and copper, day and night, fueling the global battery and electric vehicle industry across one of the most hostile environments humans have ever built on. 3. Lake Baskunchak Salt Train, Russia's most corroded railway. This train doesn't carry a single passenger. Its only job is to harvest salt from the bottom of a lake. A specialized machine called the salt harvester is dragged across the lake bed, scraping crystallized salt directly into rail cars. Here's the twist. The entire track system sits fully submerged under the lake, year-round. With salt concentration hitting 26.7 ounces per gallon, the water is a chemical weapon against metal. The rails warp, the ties become encrusted, steel structures transform into stone-hard salt sculptures that crush the train chassis from every direction. And yet, despite all of that, the operation still produces tens of thousands of tons of salt every year. 4. The Death Railway, Thailand to Myanmar. The numbers are brutal. For every mile of this railway, approximately 400 people lost their lives. Built under wartime duress with almost no machinery, thousands of elephants were deployed instead, hauling timber and steel through jungle mud and unstable mountain terrain. The limestone geology shifts constantly. Cliffside sections collapse. During monsoon season, landslides are not a risk. They're a schedule. Most of the Myanmar section no longer exists, destroyed by war and time. But the stretch from Nam Tok to Kanchanaburi in Thailand still runs, still carries tourists. Every day, people ride the same rails built on one of history's most devastating human losses. 5. Kunga Canyon Railway, China's most beautiful danger zone. The Tian Shan Canyon section of the Kunga line is described in one word: hanging. Loose red sandstone walls tower above the track, hard as rock when dry, crumbling like a biscuit when wet or shaken. And this line doesn't run light passenger trains. It runs coal freight, thousands of tons per convoy. One heavy rainfall, one vibration from a diesel locomotive. That's all it takes to send sandstone blocks tumbling down the canyon walls. For only 4 to 5 months each year, the line opens. And filmmakers wait for days just to capture the moment a massive coal train bends through those blood-red cliffs. It's been called the most beautiful railway in China, which makes it even more surreal that it's also one of the most dangerous. 6. Train to the clouds, South America's highest railway. At 13,845 feet above sea level, the La Polverilla Viaduct holds the record for one of the highest railway bridges in the world. At that altitude, oxygen is a luxury. Trains crossing this section carry a dedicated car loaded with oxygen tanks and staffed by medical personnel. The steel structure weighs 1,764 tons, and it shudders in the plateau wind. Looking through the window frame, you don't see track or ground below. You see a 207-foot drop into open air. The carriage feels like it's floating. When the train stops here, passengers step onto the bridge, the Argentine national anthem plays, and a flag moves in the cold Andean wind. It's one of the most emotionally overwhelming stops on any railway in the world. 7. Hanoi Train Street, the narrowest safety corridor on Earth. In the heart of Hanoi, a railway line passes through a residential alley so tight that the gap between the train and the house walls measures just 12 to 20 inches. That's barely enough room for an adult to press flat against the wall and hold their breath. But instead of evacuating, the locals turn this into a business. Cafes line both sides. Tourists sip coffee on tiny chairs, inches from an active rail line. About 5 minutes before the train arrives, a whistle blows. Tables get cleared, chairs disappear, customers back up to the walls. Then the train thunders through, heat rising from under the chassis, wind blasting your face, metal screaming past at arm's length. Authorities have tried to shut the cafes down repeatedly. The street keeps reopening because some experiences are too extraordinary to close. 8. Meklong Market, the world's most dangerous street market. Meklong has operated since 1905. When the railway was later built through the trading area, the vendors simply refused to move. 8 times a day, an active train rolls directly through a packed street market. No barriers, no warning lights, no automated systems. The stalls have wheels built into their bases. In under 30 seconds, sellers push their goods back just far enough to let the train pass. The moment the last carriage clears, awnings drop back down and trading resumes directly on the tracks. For visitors, the risk is real. Crowds press forward for photos, trip over produce, and get caught in the scramble as the train enters. A 120-year standoff between a market and a railway, and the market is winning. 9. The iron ore train, the most dangerous free ride in the world. At 1.6 miles long, with up to 210 cars, this Mauritanian freight train is one of the longest and heaviest in operation anywhere on Earth. If you're standing at a crossing when it passes, you could wait the length of an entire afternoon tea. What makes this train legendary is that local people and adventurous travelers are allowed to ride for free. On top of the iron ore, cars themselves. The journey covers 437 miles across open desert, wind, heat, and dust as far as you can see. Iron ore is a fine powder. Without protective goggles and a wrapped face, the dust stains your eyes and lungs black within hours. No seats, no shelter, no toilets. Just you and the desert and the iron. And somehow it's become one of the most sought-after travel experiences in Africa. 10. Gornergrat Railway, Europe's highest open-air cog railway. At 10,130 feet, the Gornergrat Railway pushes into a frozen world where weather changes in minutes. One moment, bright mountain sun. Next, a full whiteout snowstorm, the track reduced to a thin red thread across a vast white void. To climb over 4,590 feet in just 5.6 miles, the train tackles grades of up to 20%. Without the rack and pinion cog system, ordinary wheels would spin and slip immediately. So it takes 33 minutes to cover those 5.6 miles. Deliberately slow, giving passengers a full 360-degree view of the Alps without missing a second. Even in blizzard conditions, this line keeps running, year-round, because it was designed for exactly this. 11. Daju Cliffside Railway, the most frightening ride in Asia. More than one-third of this 8.17-mile railway has no ground beneath it. The track is bolted directly into near-vertical cliffs at an elevation of nearly 4,000 feet. On one side, solid rock wall. On the other, open air and a sheer drop. Dense mountain fog arrives without warning, collapsing visibility to near zero, making it feel like the train is gliding into empty space. Any operating error here isn't a delay, it's a catastrophe. And yet the train runs on 100% electric power, whisper quiet, with a smoothness that feels completely at odds with the terror outside the window. 12. Goktaek Viaduct, Myanmar's Iron Wonder. When it was completed in 1900, the Goktaek Viaduct held the world record for the highest railway bridge on Earth. At 335 feet high, roughly the height of a 30-story building, it crosses a deep gorge filled with tropical vegetation, flowing water, and natural caves far below. Nearly 2,300 feet long, the structure was assembled almost entirely with rivets and bolts, all driven by hand by workers suspended above the abyss. To protect the aging steel from stress and vibration, trains cross at walking pace. At that speed, the effect is unforgettable. No track visible below, no ground on either side, just a carriage floating through fog above a jungle gorge. 13. Optics, Valley Suspension, Railway, China's hanging train. China's first commercial suspended railway doesn't run on tracks below the train. The train hangs from them. Running 6.5 miles between two mountain districts, it passes over modern urban areas and ecological corridors, at speeds up to 37 miles per hour. The floor is transparent glass. Every passenger is forced to look directly down at the ground dozens of feet below. There is no driver. The entire system is controlled by artificial intelligence. If the AI or power system fails, passengers remain suspended in the air until rescue teams arrive with specialized extraction equipment. It is smooth, silent, and deeply unnerving. 14. Great Salt Lake Causeway, the longest railway over water. On one side of the train, blue-green water. On the other, vivid pink and purple. The Great Salt Lake Causeway is the longest railroad causeway over water in the world, and it splits the lake in two, creating two completely different ecosystems on either side. To build a stable foundation over a muddy lakebed, engineers poured more than 36 million cubic meters of rock, sand, and gravel into the water. What began as a wooden trestle in 1904 was rebuilt as a solid rock and earth embankment in 1959 to handle modern freight loads. The causeway shortened the route by 44 miles and eliminated severe grades, saving millions in annual operating costs. More than a century later, mile-long freight trains still cross this lake every single day. 15. Landwasser Viaduct, Switzerland's most iconic arch. 6 stone arches, local limestone, 122 years old, still standing, still in daily use. The Landwasser Viaduct on the Albula Railway is 213 feet high, but its most striking feature isn't its height. It's what happens at the end. The bridge has no buffer section. It curves directly into the face of a vertical mountain wall and disappears into the Landwas Tunnel, as if the train simply vanishes into the rock. With a curve radius of just 328 feet, passengers watch the front of the train appear to chase its own tail, leaning 213 feet above the valley floor. Trains cross at 6 to 9 miles per hour, slow enough to feel every second of the crossing. It is, by many measures, the most photographed railway structure in the world. 16. Chaka Salt Lake Railway, the mirror at the edge of the world. At 10,170 feet above sea level in Qinghai Province, the Chaka Salt Lake Railway runs a 24-inch narrow-gauge line straight into the middle of a vast salt lake. The lakebed is almost perfectly flat. When water rises slightly, the track appears to glide into empty space, the boundary between sky and water dissolving into an endless mirror. It's one of the most visually surreal images in China, and one of the least safe. The extreme salt concentration corrodes metal constantly. Drop an electronic device in the water, and it dies immediately. Originally built purely for salt extraction, this line now draws visitors from across the world, all chasing that one shot of a train floating through infinity. 17. Dudsagar Falls Railway, the train through a waterfall. There is exactly one railway on Earth where the train passes directly through a waterfall. Dudsagar Falls drops 1,017 feet, one of the tallest in India, and the Konkan Railway cuts straight across its face. From a distance, the train appears to be flying through a giant cloud of milk. Inside the carriage, you can open the window and feel the spray hitting your face. During monsoon season, the falls swell to full power, and landslides become a regular occurrence along the mountain slopes. Konkan Railway responds with a separate monsoon timetable: slower speeds, reduced services, constant monitoring. It remains one of the most photographed and most weather-dependent railway journeys anywhere in Asia. 18. Pamban Bridge, where the ocean swallowed a train. Between Chennai and Rameswaram, the train crosses Pamban Bridge, and for a few minutes the world disappears and only ocean remains. Blue sky above, Indian Ocean below, water visible on both sides as far as the eye can see. The bridge's most extraordinary feature is its central bascule span. It can split open vertically to let ships pass directly through the middle of an active railway. In 1964, a cyclone hit this bridge with winds so powerful they blew an entire train into the sea. That disaster is the reason trains cross at just 6 to 9 miles per hour today, slow enough to feel every shudder of the century-old steel frame beneath you. The wind here never fully stops. Neither does the danger. 19. Hanlo-Yokiang Railway, crossing the longest sandstorm zone on Earth of the 513 miles of the Hanlo-Yokiang Railway. 329 miles, about 65% of the entire route, cut through the heart of an active sandstorm zone. The sand surface reaches 140 degrees Fahrenheit during the day. Storms can erase visibility in seconds. Moving dunes dozens of feet high shift direction without warning and push toward the track. To protect the railway, engineers planted 50 million trees in a closed loop around the Taklamakan Desert, an artificial green wall irrigated automatically by AI. The train itself rides smoothly across giant viaducts, even as the desert rages outside. No other railway on Earth crosses this kind of sustained, active, living sandstorm environment. 20. White Pass and Yukon Route, the Gold Rush Railway, not the Eiffel Tower, not the Panama Canal. This is the engineering wonder that makes you hold your breath. Built in 26 months during the Klondike Gold Rush of 1898, the White Pass and Yukon route was carved through sheer granite cliffs at astonishing speed. This is one of the only train journeys on Earth that requires a passport, because the line crosses the international border between the United States and Canada at the summit of the pass. The Dead Horse Gulch Steel Bridge hangs in midair over a bottomless gorge. Right after it, precarious wooden trestle bridges pressed against vertical mountain walls. On this train, there's an open platform. The freezing air hits you directly. The rock walls pass inches from your shoulder. Fear and amazement in the same breath. 21. Mount Washington, Cog Railway, the steepest cog railway in the Americas. Jacob's Ladder, a section of track that climbs at a 37.41% grade. At that incline, passengers in the front row of a single car sit 14 feet higher than those in the back row. When inventor Sylvester Marsh first presented this idea to lawmakers, they laughed. Someone reportedly said it would be easier to get permission to build a railway to the moon. Marsh built it anyway. Using a cog system he invented himself. The train covers 3 miles from base to summit in roughly 45 minutes, close to walking speed, but with 6,288-foot views that make the pace feel entirely justified. 22. Durango and Silverton, Narrow Gauge Railroad, the cliff railway that won't quit. Many sections of this line were carved directly into vertical granite walls with no barriers between the train and a 394-foot drop. The track is 36 inches wide. The steam locomotives it carries weigh up to 113 tons. Rockfall is a constant threat. Even a small stone can block or damage the narrow gauge. On the approach to Silverton, passengers on the right side of the train look out the window and see nothing below. No ground, no rail, just the Animas River far beneath them. This railway has been in continuous operation since 1882. Over 140 years of running on the edge, and it's still going. 23. Nanjing Metro Line, S9, China's fastest lake crossing. At 7.84 miles, the elevated bridge section across Shiju Lake accounts for nearly 25% of Line S9's entire length. Hundreds of piers were driven directly into the lake bed to hold it up, and the train crosses at up to 75 miles per hour. At that speed, the lake outside the window dissolves into a pale white blur. No detail, no horizon, just speed and water. When storms hit, the line shuts down or slows to a crawl, because at 75 miles per hour over open water, wind isn't just weather, it's a structural threat. 24. Renzi-Karo Bridge, the iron web between mountains, no columns, no supports driven into the ground or the riverbed. The entire steel mass of the Renzi-Karo Bridge, hundreds of tons, is held up by two anchor abutments set into the rock faces at either end of the gorge. The structure forms the shape of the Chinese character for person. More than 20,000 giant rivets hold it together, every single one hammered in by hand, by workers suspended above the abyss. The construction method shares DNA with the Eiffel Tower, French industrial architecture at its most audacious. 2 world wars have passed. Countless trains have crossed. The original steel still stands. 25. Beipanjiang Bridge. The structure that changed what's possible. When it opened in 2001, the Beipanjiang Bridge became the first railway structure on Earth to exceed 900 feet in height, roughly the equivalent of a 90-story building. It crosses a U-shaped gorge with near-vertical rock walls on both sides. The main span stretches 774 feet, using an inverted arch built from concrete-filled steel tubes for maximum load capacity. More than 20 years later, it remains in excellent condition and has reduced mineral transport time from many days to just a few hours. It didn't just break a record. It reset the definition of what a railway bridge could be. 26. Ribblehead Viaduct. The Victorian endurance test, 1.5 million bricks. 24 arches, 1,312 feet long, 105 feet high. The Ribblehead Viaduct took 5 years to build, from 1870 to 1874, and required about 2,300 workers living in temporary shanty settlements on the Yorkshire moors. Hundreds died, most not from construction accidents, but from smallpox and dysentery. The viaduct sits at elevation and faces some of the most violent wind gusts in England. The designers knew this, so they built it with a slight curve to deflect the pressure. Each pier is sunk 26 feet into solid rock. It stands today as it stood then, a monument to how much suffering went into something most passengers cross without a second thought. 27. Pilatus Railway, the steepest cog, railway on Earth 48% grade, the steepest cog railway in the world. At that angle, the engineers themselves acknowledged, go any steeper and you're not building a railway anymore. You're building an elevator. The carriages are designed with oversized, low-set windows so passengers can look directly at the mountainside and truly feel how extreme the slope beneath them is. First run on steam in the 1880s, electrified in 1937. Rack mechanism kept original. The trains are bright red against gray rock and white snow, visible from miles away. Because of avalanche risk, the line runs only from May to November. 5 months of the most vertical railway ride in the world. 28. Curitiba Railway, the line nobody wanted to build. Leading European engineers turned this project down flat. They called it a death sentence. The track is not laid on broad, stable ground. It's pressed against vertical rock walls, clinging by inches to cliff faces, where any vibration amplifies the danger. To build it, more than 9,000 workers descended into the rainforest. Many never came back, lost to accidents, tunnel collapses, falls into ravines, and yellow fever outbreaks. The train descends from over 2,953 feet to near sea level in just a few hours. Any brake failure on that descent would be catastrophic. 14 granite tunnels. constant heavy rain, narrow passages, unstable terrain. From the window, solid ground almost never appears. Only cliff walls, tunnel openings, and the void beyond the rail. 29. Garabit Viaduct, the bridge that shouldn't exist. At the time it was built, the Garabit Viaduct was the tallest railway bridge on Earth. The drop from the rails to the gorge below, 335 feet, the height of a 30-story building. Workers in 1890 had no safety harnesses, no modern equipment, and no precedent. They built it anyway, piece by piece, rivet by rivet, hundreds of feet above the void. 4 intermediate steel towers were constructed just to preserve the height record, the tallest reaching 248 feet. The total steel mass, 3,894 tons, lifted above a deep gorge in an era before cranes existed as we know them. Trains still cross it today. Photographers still come for it. And standing beneath it, looking up at that arch over the gorge, it still looks completely impossible.